sheet, Michelle. That's cool.
Thank you. Yeah, Neha put this together so we can pretend to be a little bit more formal.
You would never get caught with imposter syndrome with a cover sheet like that. That's
Yeah, yeah. So, welcome to the Rebels. I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer in a minute. We are today talking about building HR from the ground up for small businesses and what everybody needs to know. And so we've got a really good group here. Jennifer, you've got an attorney who's worked with small businesses. You have Scott who works with small businesses from the HCM side. So Robert who works with small businesses from the consulting side. So I think this is going to be a really great conversation. Um, so Jennifer, I got this bio from AI, so hopefully it does you service. If you like it, I can send it to you. If you don't like it, blame AI. So Jennifer is an entrepreneurial, mission-driven human resources leader. She is an HR rebel. She's currently serving as the director of people at Jackbox Games. She brings a highly analytical and data-driven approach to strategic workforce planning, employee engagement, and compensation design and performance metrics. Jennifer is known for her ability to build strong relationships across all levels of an organization while leading with empathy and inclusion. In addition to all of that, she started her own consulting firm working with small businesses to help them build and implement effective people practices. So Jennifer, I will turn it over to you.
That is a very fancy bio. I appreciate it. Since we have a small room, I know I've met some of you before, and I know some of y'all know each other, but I'd love to take the first couple minutes, maybe go around the room, a little short intro from everybody, kind of, what you do. I love to know where you are in the world. And one key piece of it too is what size is the organization that you either work within, or if you're a consultant that you consult with. And I'll start to kick it off. Michelle gave me a fancy bio, but to give you some context around why I love working with small businesses is because I used to own a small business in the fashion space called Stitch Method. And we were very small. I think at our most we had 8 employees, but I didn't know anything about HR. I was coming from the fashion space and I had a business partner. And when we started that company, the things and the decisions that we made boggle my mind in terms of employees. We had no idea what we were doing. Our first hire, we thought that we got to choose if we paid them hourly or on a salary. And luckily, we chose correctly. But thinking back to what we did not know, that is why I like to partner with new businesses or businesses that are scaling and help them kind of understand maybe where they should focus first and kind of building out, what that should look like as they scale. So I am located in Chicago. I work at Jackbox Game full time. We have 88 or 90 employees right now. And I've worked with companies from my small company 15 years ago to about 250. So more in the smaller business area. All right, I'm just going to pick someone to go next for an intro. Scott, how about you?
well, thanks. Good to see you again. I just noticed that we connected a while back.
Hello.
I work for a company called Fuse,
Hi.
and we're a UKG ready partner. We provide HR tech for customers using that platform, and we've been at that quite some time. We're a boutique provider. Our specialty is really high touch service and support, and we guarantee our results. Am I
Anyone
supposed to
else want
pick
to
somebody else?
volunteer? Mhm.
Am I
Sure, go
supposed
for
to
it.
pick? Am I supposed to pick somebody else, or does people just pop up? How do we?
Go for it, Scott. You can choose.
Robert, how about you? Always good to hear from you.
Oh, thanks, Scott. Yeah, Robert Griffard, founder of Human Resources Pro, which is a HR consulting community. And what's today? Wednesday, 2 days ago, we merged with People for People, another HR consulting community. And we believe that we are now the largest HR consultant community in the world. So let's go to Charlotte. You said your voice is not working.
Yeah. So I'll do my best to Apologies, I'm just getting over laryngitis. I'm Charlotte Stevens. I spent 4 decades or so practicing employment law in a large law firm and sort of burnt out from that. So I retired at the end of 2021 and started an HR consulting business. I work with nonprofits, schools, and really all kinds of businesses. I really enjoy working on my own because I can charge what I want and not what I charged at the law firm. So many more people like nonprofits that I love working with can afford me. I used to say I couldn't afford myself. And these days, mostly what I'm doing are investigations of all kinds, ranging from, your standard employee behavioral issues to sexual misconduct in colleges and universities. And I do some conflict resolution, and I also do some project-based consulting, not anything like fractional HR or anything like that. Mostly, changing people's performance evaluation models or compensation schemes or that type of thing, something that I can jump into and then exit from gracefully. Oh, Rhiannon.
Hello, everyone. Charlotte, I want to talk with you more because one of my niches is workplace investigations. But then I also I'm a consultant. Then I also come with 24 years of experience in HR. So I'm always bringing that, balance when I work with clients in the fractional and interim space for multi-state. So the size of companies I typically target are 500 employees and up. So I was excited to hear from Jennifer today because she might be a great referral partner for all the clients that I work with that are a little bit smaller than I prefer. So excited to hear more from you today, Jennifer. I will take it to Sherry.
Hi, I'm Sherry. I'm an HR manager. I'm with Avidex Industries. We're an audiovisual company. I was actually part of a acquisition. So the company I was with before that was CCS, and we were a smaller, about 70 employees. And so when we got acquired, we're a little over 500 employees now. So my role kind of changed more from the HR manager department of one to now working with a team, but just overseeing just the New England and helping out over in Washington State as well. So I have multi state for HR as well. And so let me see who hasn't gone. Melissa, love to hear from you.
Thanks, Sherry. Hi, everybody. This is my first HR Rebels Zoom call, so I'm very excited. So my name's Melissa. I work for a company called Syzygy, which I know is hard to pronounce, but we provide fractional accounting, operations, and HR services to small businesses who can't afford to have them in-house. So I head up the HR division for them, and very similar where we have two parts of the business. We either help small businesses set up their HR foundation, like handbooks, compliance audits, required training, onboarding, offboarding, or we offer in-house services. So we have about 10 clients, and our company sizes usually are the 15 to 30 employee size right now, where we are just doing their in-house HR, which is just helping them with their policies, running their performance reviews, employee engagement, a lot of employee relations, conflict resolution, all that fun stuff. So I'm excited about this one specifically because it's definitely relevant. Cool. I will pass it to Michelle.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Strasburger. I am the CEO of HR Rebooted, where we are building tools to help HR professionals lead during this AI revolution. Our flagship product is Governance First, which is an AI governance platform, which we're currently in beta for. And so we'll be launching that for revenue shortly. And I've been in human resources for 25 years before this CEO stint, so I'm learning a lot. And I also run the HR Rebels. So excited to be here. Nice to meet you, Melissa. Thanks for joining us. And I will actually just turn it over to Kelly, who's our CTO. So we'll keep it in the same business.
Hello, everybody. As Michelle said, I'm Kelly Cunningham, and I'm the CTO of HR Rebooted. And we are very excited about the products that we are producing. As Michelle said, Governance First is our flagship product, and we really believe it's very unique within the industry right now. We are really one of the few, if not the only, company to really deal with AI governance in such an extensive and comprehensive manner. So uh, hopefully everybody will get a chance to check it out at some point. And so what am I supposed to hand it over to somebody now?
Yep.
So Jennifer, you're right next to me, and I see you nodding, so I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right, I kicked it off, I think maybe before you started with us, Kelly. So I'm going to popcorn it over to, we have some folks with cameras off, but I'll see if they're ready to speak. Kimberly, are you with us?
Maybe Megan
All
Gilson?
right, yeah. Megan, will you go?
Hi, everybody. I am Megan Gilson, and I am the founder and CEO of Nexus Impact Services. And I help small to medium-sized businesses adopt AI, particularly those in HR or other professional services. So I walk them through, like, not the big scary AI, but like just the tools that they need to do the things that they need to do. And let's see who is not gone yet. Let's see.
I think maybe Kim Ritter.
Yeah.
Kim, yeah.
Hi,
Okay.
sorry. Hi, I'm Kim Ritter. I'm an HR consultant. I've been working independently for the past few years in Ohio and Northeast Ohio, and I apologize. I have a terrible cold, so if I turn off my video and mute, it's because I'm sneezing and sniffling and blowing my nose. And I am in the in the process. I'm just starting to job search again, so I'm going to start doing that. I was going to start doing that sooner rather than later, but I think I'm going to wait until I feel a little better because I don't want to get a call and say, "Oh, can you come in tomorrow for an interview?" And then sorry if I missed something that something else I was supposed to share. I apologize.
Nope, that was perfect.
Okay.
We'll see if either Karen or Anne Marie are with us.
Hi, everybody. I apologize. I am taking a much needed video sabbatical today, so I'm gonna stay off camera. Um, I'm located in New Hampshire. About 2.5 years ago, I founded Pinnacle Connections HR, after spending an entire career leading, building, growing HR teams. I needed a break and I needed to do things differently because I knew there was a better way to support employees while also balancing the best interests of the business. So, Pinnacle Connections, we do fractional HR advising, and I also coach HR professionals, particularly those that are earlier on in their career, where if an organization, they may be the only HR person, and the business is looking for them to flex up to be a more strategic resource, and maybe they don't yet have the skills or the mentor to help them with that. I work mostly with small companies, anywhere from pre-hire all the way up to usually around 100 employees, and totally industry agnostic, having worked many years in manufacturing and SaaS and professional services organizations. So I have to always laugh when an organization says, no, our HR person has to come from our industry because nobody else would understand, right? I think we've all probably been there at some point.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anne-Marie Ibrahim. Right now, I'm in a business partner role with a SaaS organization, which is a K through 12 organization, Savvis Learning. They're a spinoff from Pearson, if you know the name or had the books when we were younger at school. I in a business partner role here, but I've been across different organizations over 25 years in HR. Whether it's employee relations, smaller companies, larger companies like Donnelly or Donnelly. I've worked at Federal Express and before they were spun off into different organizations themselves, so many moons ago. But I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
All right, I think we got everyone. I'm definitely having some internet issues, so I apologize in advance if things kind of go in and out. I did not prepare anything super formal. I wanted this to be just kind of an informal chit chat. It's great that we have so many different HR perspectives in the room, in-house consultants, legal, because we all are coming at this from a different place. I don't think that there is any one right way to do HR. I've definitely worked with people who think that way. I do not. And I think every time you engage with a new business, it depends on where they're at, their industry, what they're doing. Even when it comes to compliance, they might be in an industry that has different compliance regulations or a state that has certain compliance regulations. So I look at this time to kind of share experiences and learn from each other. So that being queued up, I do have some, questions I'd love to talk through, but I thought I would start by asking if anyone here has something specific that they wanted to chat through with the folks in the room.
I was excited to hear specifically who you serve, what kind of work you enjoy, so that I could refer people to you.
Yeah, so I prefer, I think what I'll do when I prefer two different things, but what I prefer is working with people who are really just starting out. They are hiring their first employees and they don't know where to start from a culture perspective or client compliance perspective. They're just eager to kind of get those people on board and they don't have the bandwidth to think through any of that. So I like really being there with them as they're starting to build the business.
I'm curious to know. I've worked in small business as well. I've worked in both large and small, so I've seen kind of both sides. But I agree with you that there's not a one size fits all for HR. But what do you see as the biggest challenges for small businesses when they're kind of starting out hiring?
I think that people, and this maybe be because we are in HR, I think people get really stuck on the compliance piece, and that is super important, of course. Let's not get sued or get in trouble by the federal government. But I don't think they focus enough on the culture piece. They think that they'll organically create this great culture without putting any sort of strategy or mindfulness around it, or they think they don't need to think about it yet. They'll think about it when they have 30 folks or 50 folks. And even with my full-time job at Jackbox, when I started, they had 50 people, and they'd been around for 10 years, and they were looking for someone to help with their culture. And that's great. I'm happy to help. But I wish they'd maybe put some thought into that when they started 10 years ago, as they started to build. So I think that is something that people struggle with without knowing they're struggling with it, if that makes sense. But I'm curious to hear what other folks are seeing when they're consulting.
I've talked with occasionally with startup organizations and entrepreneurs who feel like they have a new product, a new service, and they want to get it out, and it's dependent largely on people, the people that work for them and make things happen. And 9 out of 10 times talking with them, they say, no, we don't need HR. We've only got 20 people. We've only got 30 people. We've only got 10. And try to tell them that the mistakes they're making now will be magnified as they go forward. And it takes a little bit of effort to get them on the right path so that they don't make those mistakes. Invariably, they say, come back when we're bigger.
I just want to piggyback on that because I have that experience often when I'm doing sales calls on my end is right, like clients who I talk to are they're mostly owners of a company. Um, they're like, no, we're a close-knit family. Like, we don't have any HR issues. We don't need it yet. Like, we need it at this, threshold of the employee count. And then the pattern that I've seen was I'll have like the sales call and go through, my whole spiel. And then they'll come back when an employee issue arrives or like arises, or like if they need to terminate somebody and they have no idea how to do it, or there an incident happened between and like two employees that they need to do conflict resolution. So I think that's what I have been seeing, is business owners being very reactive instead of proactive for the HR services.
People seem to get stuck on some sort of HR formula. I hear this all the time that you only need a department of one until you hit 100 people. And then I don't know what happens after 100 people, but something magic happens. And I think they also tend to put everything under HR, from IT to legal to now AI. And to there's so many different skills and so many different ways to use your brain, and to have one person doing all those things because it's been determined that you only need one person until you reach 100 people. And especially in the recruiting space as well, depending on how fast they're growing, is very challenging. And to get them to understand that they need people doing all of these different things, and maybe it's not HR, a department of one, maybe it's a few different people doing a few different things, seems to be a little bit of a barrier. Has anybody else seen that magic number thing that they have?
From a provider standpoint, I can tell you that a lot of the prospective clients I talk to, of all sizes, but especially small business, tend to have a real disparity of who's over what function, what tools they're using. It's no great wonder that they're in constant confusion because they got ADP for payroll and something that a brother-in-law wrote for HR, and you know a spreadsheet to keep track of benefits. I mean, we're in an age where there's technology here that can take away the drudgery from HR. And if you're not using that today, if your clients aren't using that, then they're driving themselves crazy unnecessarily. And I spend the 90% of my time in talking to people saying, "Oh, why would you do that? I mean, if you don't pick me, pick somebody, get it all under one roof. Don't play around that way. It drives you crazy. It literally can give you a nervous breakdown."
But I also feel for them because what are there? Like 1,000 options. When you
Yeah.
look at like HRIS systems, talent acquisition systems, applicant tracking systems, like there's so much. I mean, I don't think half of us could keep them straight, let alone a CEO who's trying to do a million other things. And then they're trying to select the right system for them. So they'll pick ADP for a 10-person team, and you're just like, no. And you just watch it like go up in flames because there's so much to tackle. I think a lot of leaders need a trusted resource to kind of guide them through the
Yeah.
steps, to show them what they don't know, maybe stick them with some services that are designed for smaller startups and then transition them later. But CEOs need us for sure.
Well, especially smaller company CEOs, because, you know, how can I say it politely? Oh, I'm not going to worry about that. They're cowboys and cowgirls. They aren't really business people. They grew up being an electrician and suddenly they got 140 electricians working for them, but they still think like a guy with a tool belt, you know. And they think they pick their HR provider by who they met at the most recent networking group that had good jokes around the cocktail table.
And that's something that I think it's also Melissa said too, but I find it, the family word, like we're a family, don't have issues. And uh, it's really hard getting people to transition to understand because, and again, also what Scott said about picking somebody because you have a relationship or you see like, we share something or like football or we go out for a
Yeah.
drink or, we like to golf and that's a person that you're going to, rely on. But I think the approach, like, a lot of the times I go back to my kids learning how to drive because I have zero patience and I have twins and they were learning to drive and I was like, oh my God, I can't do it. No way. It's not going to be me. And so I found a teacher instead of a school. And I love a teacher philosophy. And that's why I'm going to say this is because when he came in and he come in with a checklist, like the driving schools, I'm saying, oh, you have to do this, this, and this to get you ready for your driver's test. He took them out and he said, let's see what you are good at. And then we're going to concentrate on the things you need to improve. And so I feel like that's how you like approaching it of, instead of scaring everybody about, I need a book, I need a policy, I need this, I need that is like approaching, in that teacher philosophy of what's working and then what isn't. And then going that way when you approach small businesses.
When someone says, well, we're a family, we don't have to worry about that. That tells me immediately they've never been part of a family business. There's nothing that creates more conflict than family and business. I've worked for my
Oh my
father.
gosh,
I had my
right?
son work for me. And one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, their epitaph was, if you would know the character of a man, first share an inheritance with him. I mean, it's emotionally wrought. It's not. That's
Yeah.
that's a great thing to be part of a family, but that isn't necessarily anything that you ought to have be part of business. If you're going to
Mm-mm.
be in a family business, you have to say, okay, family stops here. We just walked into the office, and then it picks back up when we go to dinner together.
I feel like that's more toxic in a sense, when it is like the family, because there's a lot of, instead of the right way, it's almost like you're leaning on them to do the extra things or things that are not,
Yeah.
part of those roles. And because you would do that to a family, right? Ask
Yeah,
them for extra.
it's a business founded on relationship instead of qualifications
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and know-how.
And
And
we
it's
don't
like
think
always an immediate red flag.
Yeah.
we don't think about the human dynamic that's gone on a long time. I mean, for much of human history, everybody did whatever their parent did, and by and large, it was men. So we say fathers and sons, but certainly mothers and daughters as well. And it was, and we still do that. The whole mentor-mentee thing is really a parent-child thing, and yet we resent that and we don't like it, but yet that's what it is. And having been part of the dynamic of a parent and child on both sides of that,
Yeah.
one of the big challenges is a child's or a son's job description between their ears is partially and sometimes mostly make dad wrong, you know? And you have to figure out how to turn it around from make dad wrong to make dad see and make him think it was his idea, you know?
Yeah, I think that goes back to earlier this year, we had Ted Gorski talking about how to get a seat at the table. And one
Mhm.
thing that I remembered from that conversation is that he said, you have to show value, right? And bring value. And I keep
Yeah.
thinking if you're, Jennifer, if you have clients where they're coming to you and they're hiring one, two, or three people in the beginning, they're seeing the value. And so I don't know if there's something that you're doing or saying or sharing that or it's just that founder just has the right mindset that sees the value in bringing HR on, or sees the value that you bring as an HR professional.
Yeah, and to be clear too, and I think compared to the other probably consultants in the room, I do a lot of smaller projects because my clients are smaller. We don't need at this point some of the bigger projects necessarily, but I think just understanding that they need someone to kind of help right from the beginning. I agree. They probably came from a different industry or a situation where they know they need to focus on those things first. It's kind of how I've seen it. So Kelly left early, but there's a great question I wanted to address. What do you see with companies and AI in terms of governance right now on the ground? This is something I outsource, and I think we have some experts in the room, so I'm eager to hear.
I can give my insight, but I would love to hear from others in small business, see what they're actually seeing. Are your companies or clients reaching out about AI?
Yes, and I can help with a very high level overall governance in terms of um, what information not to put into AI, those sorts of things. But this is certainly not my area of expertise. So I always outsource this a little bit, even internally at Jackbox right now. To be completely honest, we have not done well with our AI governance, and I've been really pushing to outsource this, and they have not wanted to do it. So I know, Michelle, this is your area of expertise, so I am eager to hear what you have to say.
Well, I mean, so we're in beta right now for our AI governance platform, but what I'm hearing is that it's a little bit of the wild, wild west, and either organizations have maybe a policy and that's how they're managing governance, or they don't really have anything, or they're telling people not to use it. So it's a little bit all over the board as far as how organizations are managing it. Our platform gives you the full framework based on the NIST standards, and it's 7 steps that walks you through how to set up governance, and then our operational side of the platform actually puts it in play, and so that you're monitoring it all the time. There are a couple of other platforms out there that do it automatically, but the challenge with that, it's automatically monitoring, but the problem with that is then if the monitoring system is AI, who's managing that AI? So it's like that cycle of like who's managing the AI that's managing your AI. And so our platform is what we think is differentiating is that we have the human element to it and human oversight, and we have the full cycle. So when there is an issue that flags, it flags your governance committee so that they can move in for corrective action. I've also seen larger organizations, I know this is a small business thing, kind of rethink their structure, and they're moving IT under HR. You mentioned a little bit. I know in small businesses, a lot of times that kind of comes with the territory. IT tends to fall under HR if you're a department of one, or maybe a department of two, and that's not uncommon. I know I have a client that I've done that with in the past. So, but they're formalizing that in larger organizations.
What are other folks seeing in terms of clients, small, big, in terms of AI governance and where they're at right now?
I'm actually seeing a whole lot of no governance and sometimes not even a strong awareness of what, if anything, their employees may be using. So that's kind of scary, especially in any kind of organization. And there are certainly a lot of them which have client private information or financial information, medical information. I think medical is probably a little more on top of it because they have so many restrictions, but they don't know what their employees are doing on their cell phones even.
What I'm seeing with my clients, who again are a little bit larger, typically above 500 employees, and nationwide. Um, I'm seeing the IT handling um, it and with partnership and good communication with HR, but I see it being owned by kind of the larger technology divisions of the organization.
The small businesses that I've seen uh, are basically, when it comes to like HR and AI governance, it's a department of none, and nobody's doing it. And as far as AI goes, people are trying to figure out the ABCs, and it'll be a long time before they get to G for governance. And by then, they're going to have issues and problems that, again, are going to take a lot of effort to overcome. And so small businesses, and as far as HR consulting goes, it's kind of our bread and butter, where they either don't feel that they need HR or they can't afford a strong HR person. And so instead of paying somebody 70, 80, 90,000 or more, if you have a fractional HR person, you're getting a 200K person to work for you 5 hours a week. And during that 5 hours, they'll do more good than a 50, 60, $70,000 person will do in 40 hours.
Yes, Michelle, I'm not quite sure I answered the question. I think I echo maybe mostly what Charlotte said about I think I'm seeing people either ignoring it, not doing anything, and just letting their employees kind of the wild, wild west a little bit, which is a little bit concerning.
I think that's the norm. That's par for the course. So I don't think it's anything out. I think that people just don't know what to do. We don't have a lot of regulations in the US, or Europe has ISO 42001, the GDPR, now the EU AI Act. And so they're much more ahead of it than we are.
One thing I was gonna say is that's top of mind in my mind. It's tax season right now, and a lot of CPA firms are so excited to use AI for our personal financial data. And I keep hearing warnings that like all of that stuff is going somewhere, and it's not secure even when they think it is secure. So, I mean, I don't think people have any idea the damage, but I don't trust CPA firms either. That so many companies are t looking at this like, oh, I can lay off 6 people because AI can do what they used to do. They're putting their company data into wherever it goes, and they're so excited about what it does, but they're not thinking of the long-term effects. And, if we're having all of these, I mean, I don't know how many times a month I get notices that my data has been potentially shared with the wrong places. I just, this is a risk like anything else, and it looks good on its face, but we have to ask why. And I think that's goes back to the work that Michelle and others are doing in this space to make sure that we understand the full picture, not just something's going to do work for us, and make our life so easy.
I think you touched on something super important. Where does that information go? Even the other day, I was working on a couple of spreadsheets and I thought, hey, I could do this what I'm trying to do in 2 seconds, but I don't know where the information's going to go. So I'm not going to do anything with that. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And of course, we have no governance a Jackbox yet about it. But I think until we really understand where the information is going, I find it challenging to help myself and clients figure this stuff out. Um, I guess again, I think Michelle, you're maybe our closest AI expert on this call. Any thoughts about that?
Depends on the system you're using. So you can lock down your chat if you're using chat. It also really depends on your governance and your oversight because you have to tell people how to use it and you have to train them and you have to continually communicate and you have to continuously train them and you have to continuously update your policies. And so also there are organizations that have their own home-built AI.
Mhm.
And so those are much more locked down. And then there are systems like Microsoft Copilot is much more rigor on the governance already built in. Um, but you have to really ask the questions of the AI software that you're using. And that's why it's important for HR to be at the table for this because you have to ask all of those questions. Data privacy, how are we using what happens if resumes are going in there and there's personal information, PII going in there? Do we have to worry about HIPAA? Well, how does this work if we're tying it to our medical benefits and we're asking people medical benefit questions? Where does this information go? Where does it get stored? Does it delete every 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? What protections are there for us as the employer? I'll tell you, I went to a conference and there were attorneys speaking, and they said none. They can't indemnify you because the government has said that if you make a decision based upon the results of the AI, you're on the hook. It's not the AI. And so you could probably go after the AI if they're indemnifying you, but they can't really indemnify you. So you have to ask a lot of questions when you're implementing a system and not just tossing it out there. And if you're not educating people on how to use it and why they're using it and how to work together on it, and maybe Megan, if she's still on the call, can talk to what she's seeing too, because this is some of the work that she does. People aren't going to use it. I mean, the studies are showing right now that it's only 11% of people are using it on a daily basis. So we're not implementing it correctly already.
You have to be responsible to check it, verify it. I mean, look how many lawyers have gotten into trouble by, and you hear about the most ridiculous cases, situations like citing cases that don't exist. But, if you're going to rely on it to make decisions that impact people's lives, you do need to, you need to verify.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting that like it's state by state. I mean, that's how the US works, but I've taken a couple like employment law webinars in the beginning of this year, and a lot of it has been around like the AI regulation and the policies you need to put in place, especially if you're using AI for employment practices. And I remember there was like a case in Illinois where like, when they were screening resumes, they left out a certain zip code for an area, which is
Huh?
freaking insane. So they got in a bunch of trouble, and that caused Illinois to have to put in, right, like some regulation that whatever AI you're using, you need to make sure that it's not being biased or, like making employment decisions that will get you into discrimination trouble. So,
And I don't see how you can possibly make sure that it's not being biased.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the point, right? I feel like with
Right.
all the HR specific AI tech, I feel like a lot of it is like the resume screening that people get into trouble with,
Yeah.
is a whole issue.
Well, and this has been going on for us in HR for a long time. Because remember when applicant tracking systems were put in place and like auto sourcing
Yeah.
and kind of like weeding out certain resumes, and then there was litigation because um, certain classifications of people were getting
Yeah,
discriminated against and there
exactly.
was adverse impact. So um, this has been around for us for a while. I think if
Yeah.
anything, we should be more ready and aware of the risks than just about anyone. Um, but boy, laziness is such a temptation. because I see business leaders like, oh, we could really save a lot of money by getting rid of 17 people from our floor if we could automate this,
Right.
and they're just not even, I don't know. Like I'm excited that you're excited about AI. However, again, Michelle's point, the governance, the policy. What are the bigger ramifications? What are the lasting effects? What is this doing to your culture? What is this doing to communities of people as we have just gone through all these layoffs, thousands of people without jobs? And I'm not saying we can keep everybody gainfully employed till the end of time, but what are the bigger impacts instead of just hurry, hurry, make quick decisions and go, 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 go?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and bringing it back to the small business, discussion is I was chatting with somebody earlier and I was giving them the example of, if I'm Walmart and I'm have my organization using AI, I want to know if I'm the CHRO, if a recruiter out in New Hampshire is running into issues with the AI and noticing bias, right? How do we
Yeah.
report that? How do we do corrective action? And he said, well, I'm a small business, so I'm not really worried about that. And I was like, well, here are the things you should be worried about, right? This does affect small businesses as well. It's, you may not have 10,000 employees that you have to worry about using AI, but you do have to worry about your 20 employees using AI and how they're doing it. And if you're telling them not to, they're already doing it on their phones, or in their own systems.
I think the
Have,
culture piece of that's huge too, from the smaller
Mhm.
companies and the bigger companies, because a lot of people are excited and they're trying things, but there's also the people that are scared of it and nervous of it and are worried about the environmental impacts of it. And so matter on both sides, you have to worry about how you're going to talk about it, roll it out, besides the whole governance piece of it. Just how do we talk about it and message it and get everybody on board? And I think I cut someone off. I'm sorry.
oh no, that's okay. I was just thinking about, because I'm taking all of these webinars and just trying to learn what the regulation is going to be for this. And I'm just curious how it's now going to be updated in employee handbooks or if they're just going to be standalone policies because it's probably going to be ever changing. So I'm curious if people here have like, if they've even like implemented AI usage policies in for their clients and like what does that look like? Is it in the handbook? Is it standalone? Yeah, I would love to hear.
I mean, I agree with Michelle that it should be standalone, and I think that there's got to be a team that works on it that has ownership of different pieces, IT,
Hmm.
technical, whoever has technical expertise on what you're going to use it for, and then HR, legal. I think everybody needs to weigh in because there's so many different aspects of it that one person is not going to have and probably is not going to have a clear understanding of what successful use of it means to the company.
Yeah.
Well, and back to the small business, um, slant. I think small business owners just don't think they're at risk of getting caught, of being looked at. They don't think that their decisions are going to matter that much. The chances of them getting called out or caught in something are just not there. I mean, they feel that way about FLSA. They feel that way about, all the
Until
things
they do.
until they do.
Yeah.
But definitely the AI space, I just don't think there's there's not a lot of seriousness or caution.
Yeah, but this is ripe, and Charlotte can disagree or agree with me on this one, but this is ripe for class action, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll get some big employers they'll say, oh, they're all using whatever
Yeah.
platform and they're all making bad mistakes. I think there is a big lawsuit right now where an organization made employment decisions and terminated a lot of people based upon reports that were generated from AI, and
Right.
the reports were wrong.
Right.
And so the union is going after them. And so once and I'm married to an attorney, so nothing against attorneys, but once they grab onto this and they see this as an issue, they're going to find all the other ones that are issues. And if you, no matter what size organization you are, if you're falling under the same umbrella, you can get lumped in. And we don't use the fear factor at HR Rebooted. We really talk about being proactive, where we don't have the regulations today, but we're going to get you set up so that when we do have regulations, you already have it in place and you're ready to go. But that fear factor, I think, is a real thing. And if in organizations, regardless of size, I agree with you, Rhiannon, they're like, oh, we're not going to be affected. They're not going to come after us. But I do think this is ripe for class action, and we're starting to see it.
Don't you think, just to tag on to that, Michelle, that the very thing that we're afraid of here, the, I don't want to say predatory attorneys, but I'm going to say it anyway, the law firms that look for those opportunistic class actions are using AI to determine how big of an opportunity it is. And when it reaches critical mass, this is going to become the industry du jour.
Yeah, probably.
I think
Because I mean, if you think
that's
about
right.
it, if you're both educated as an attorney and adept at this kind of action and adept at AI, it's a huge business opportunity. You could figure that out right now and sign an awful lot of people up.
Right. And if
And
you're an
it's
HR
harder for,
person for a small business and you're going to your
yeah,
CEO and saying, this is what I know about AI, this is what I've learned, these are the things we have to put in place, you're a
yeah.
hero versus like proactively having them come to you and be like, we just got sued. Now what do
Right.
we do?
Right.
Well, and small business is a bigger market because big business can afford to fight this. A small business, if they come to you and they say the bad news is you're going to owe $100,000 to settle this. The good news is you're only going to owe
Yeah.
$100,000 to settle this.
Well, and you got to make sure you're properly insured too. And I think a lot of small businesses are maybe not working with an experienced broker to help them out with that situation because there are certain risks that you can insure against. Um,
But if it's
and I
errors and
think the large,
omissions, if
well,
it's errors and omissions insurance, for instance, that doesn't count if the insurance company can claim, well, you didn't do your due diligence, right? I mean, if you didn't pay attention, the fact that you're stupid doesn't mean we have to pay.
yeah, well, that's always a risk, but it's the important thing is to make sure you've got coverage in place and that you're working with a broker that's filling those gaps. And, small businesses are the ones that I tend to find that have the gaps. They didn't get employment practices liability insurance. They didn't get,
Yeah, yeah.
certain types of coverage that, big businesses it's just par for the course for them, but smaller ones don't know what they don't know.
Yep. And that's why it's super valuable to have HR day one.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other thoughts or comments? I'm just putting this slide up so I don't forget to do it, that we've been pre-approved for one HRCI recertification credit. So there's your code to use in the system. You'll get an email from Neha afterwards too. So you'll have the email confirmation with the code. Jennifer, anything else you'd like to add?
I think the one, just to close up the AI conversation, something else to think about too is we don't know where AI is going in terms of public perception. What I mean by that is each industry looks at AI a little differently. So at Jackbox from the gaming industry, and they thought that we had used AI in something recently, and the backlash from our customers was huge. And so I think the other piece of AI is how does it impact the business from a social structure and from their customers and that side of it too. We don't really know where things are going. So it's just a lot of confusing pieces to think about when you're thinking about implementing AI for a company.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think transparency is key.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Thank you so much,
Nice chatting to
Jennifer.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We do ask for your feedback, so please share your feedback if there's any specific topics you'd like to hear or present. We are all ears, so please definitely share that. And our upcoming sessions, we are going to have Matt Meadows, who I think was on the call, I don't know if he's still here, talking with us about performance reviews and AI. And Vanessa Gutierrez and I will be doing a session. We're just trying to confirm the date, either the end of this month or next month, on vibe coding for HR. So if you've ever wanted to learn how to vibe code, please join us for that session and look out for that. And we will not have a meeting next week. My kids have a half day and I have to be at the school for noon, so I can't be in two places at once. So you get a week off. But thank you, everyone. I appreciate you and hope you have a great rest of the week.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.